I'm very excited about this. Like, I got myself an early Christmas present of something called a sound machine, which basically means I've hit the big time. I don't need to edit sounds in after the fact. Now I can talk about all sorts of things. We could go to the Cannes Film Festival, where they clap for about 10 minutes straight. Just like Cannes. It overstays its welcome. Or we could talk about, I don't know, cats. You get it? Because it's a bomb. We could talk about Rise of Skywalker. I meant to press this one. Let's see if I'm hoping I can find one more button that will get me out of this awkward segment. Let's see. Here it is.
This is a broadcast from the Pop Cult Pod.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location in Ireland, known as the Pop Cult Compound, where the craze for film, television, video games, and much, much more. A proud part of the Phoenix Wrestling Network comes the Pop Cult Pod, the only podcast with an actual cult following, hosted by your cult leader, Tompott.
Welcome to the Pop Cult Pod. I'm your cult leader, Tompott, and I am the present underneath the Christmas tree you just didn't see, but boy, you glad it's there on the Phoenix Wrestling Network. That's a bit of a long title. Don't think it makes sense, but I'm taking it anyway. Again, I will keep taking titles until I'm told to stop. Or maybe I'll keep going, because I've already called myself the Rebel of the Phoenix Wrestling Network, so you never know. Apologies for the delay with this episode. It was meant to come out a bit earlier, but hey, we're coming out Christmas week. What better way to celebrate Christmas with a Christmas pod, which of course relates to our topic, which is Die Hard a Christmas movie, which you're going to get to really soon. Had a fantastic interview with Chris O'Neill at the Triskel that we'll get into. Aside from that, not too much news, some news to talk about. A lot of trailers to get through though, so we better dive right into it with our new news.
Not just news, not just new news, but the new.
So yeah, as I said, news kind of drips its way through a little bit coming up to Christmas, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the stuff that is worth talking about. Not a lot of details on some of the stuff, but we'll get to it anyway. First up, we are going back to the Planet of the Apes. I guess spoiler, I guess we're the Planet of the Apes, so we never really left. I fucked up this right away, but I'm going to keep going. We're getting a new Planet of the Apes film from Wes Ball, who's basically best known. I think the only Hollywood films he's done are the Maze Runner films. But yeah, now that this franchise is under Disney, what that means, we don't know. He has said very little about it. It's unclear if it takes place in the same continuity as the last trilogy. I would assume it would be something new. He said he loved the original trilogy, he loves the most recent trilogy, and he loves apes, and he's friends with a lot of people that worked on it. And that's all we have to go on. So it's not clear if it's the same continuity. I would say probably not going to be, just because, I guess spoilers for the last Planet of the Apes movie, but where do you really go from, Caesar being dead? I don't think it makes much sense to go back to that. There's not really anything you grab onto. And there's still a lot of time between that trilogy ending and kind of where the original movies start. So I think Disney wants something new. I don't think they want to really go back too much to Fox properties in that regard. But anyway, that's really all we got in it. I'm excited for you to see this. I really enjoyed the last few Planet of the Apes movies. I wasn't a huge fan of War of the Planet of the Apes, but Dawn I think was one of the best blockbusters we got of that decade, certainly. But it's not the only reboot we're getting, and this one is a bit more surprising because it's even more recent. And that is Power Rangers. Paramount Pictures has tasked Jonathan Entwistle, best known for his work on The End of the Fucking World on Netflix. I think that maybe the second season has just started or is coming very soon. Apparently a great show. I haven't watched it. I know it's based on a graphic novel. He's been given the Herculean task of rebooting Power Rangers. That's right. We just did this recently, didn't we? We did this like 2017, is it? And now we're doing it again. I actually didn't mind that Power Rangers. I quite liked it. I'm not a huge Power Rangers guy, but I liked it enough where I liked that movie. I mean, it was basically Chronicle. So what does that mean? First of all, this might be some news to kind of take the wind out of your sails if you're really excited about it. It's being written by Patrick Burley, who has written one major studio film, and it's Peter Rabbit 2. Coming soon. So whether or not that factors in, I don't know. Maybe he's a great writer. Who knows? Regardless, apparently the Power Rangers are coming back very, very quickly. Remember when reboots it actually took some time to even call it a reboot? Now it seems like every 2 years it's like, hey, yeah, just forget about the last one. So, like, yeah, I don't know. What they do the difference? I'm guessing they're just going to go pure nostalgia on this one. Very much classic Power Rangers. Nothing weird, nothing too dark. Nothing that really examines the relationship to the people in it, like the last one did. You know, I'm kind of indifferent to this, but I know it means a lot to massive people who loved, not massive people, not like big people, you know. But I guess, hey, big people could like Power Rangers because, what am I going on about? What weird tangent is this? What I'm saying is, I'm sure this is a big deal for people who loved the Power Rangers growing up, who are now big people. See, I actually was talking sense there. They were little people, but they've grown up since, and now they're big people. There we go. I don't talk nonsense. I don't make mistakes, ever. Who else doesn't make mistakes? Well, Warner Bros. Apparently, because they've gotten rid of the Lego property. And apparently they don't want to make any more mistakes with Lego because they made a lot of them recently. Warner Brothers and Lego. So let's look at this relationship before we get into it, okay? They've made Lego films over the past 5 years. First one came, of course, the Lego movie in 2014. They followed that up with the Lego Batman movie, Lego Ninjago, which was disastrous. And then just this year, in February, I believe it was, they had the sequel to the Lego movie, the second part, which I actually quite liked. This is quite expected, but also quite disappointing. I think it really speaks to poor handling on Warner Bros. Part. When a couple of years back, they did an interview with, I think, the head of Warner Bros. Now he's moved on since, but he basically said like the three pillars of Warner Bros. Going forward were going to be Lego, Harry Potter, and DC. And you know, two of those pillars are crumbling. One of them very nearly did. Like DC have kind of recovered. You know, the Harry Potter one with Fantastic Beasts really damaged it, so I don't know if people are going to come back for the third one of that yet. We'll see. But the Lego movie, what went wrong there, I guess, the first movie was such a revelation because naturally everyone's reaction was, ugh, so this is just Lego. It's going to be a crappy kids ad for Lego. And they gave us something weird, they gave us something funny and meta. That was pretty original. And it was great. Lego Batman was a lot of fun, especially if you're a Batman fan, and most people are. Lego Ninjago, I don't know what the issue, I don't know where that went wrong. But it wasn't well received, it didn't do well. Lego Ninjago is a massive property. I don't know if they just fumbled it. Maybe it's because, you know, I know that there's a whole Lego Ninjago show. It didn't tie into that. Maybe that's a factor. I'm not sure. And then they released Lego Movie Part 2. Where did that go wrong then? Because I think as much as it was a step down from the first one, it was a pretty good movie. You know, it didn't come out at a competitive time either. I think what happened there was they waited 5 years to make a sequel. And I don't think it was a movie you could wait around long enough to do, you know. Animation can often at times move on very quickly, especially if you're not a Disney property. So people have kind of moved on and kind of forgotten about Lego. I don't think it was marketed especially well. People very quickly, you know, weren't even aware that the movie was coming out. And now I guess they have to move on, and they have moved on. Lego have signed a deal with Universal to make more Lego movies, Lego properties, I guess. So I think there was maybe 2 or 3 Warner Brothers Lego properties in development that I guess must be dead now, unless they move over to Universal, which probably seems unlikely. Yeah, I don't know what more you do with that property, to be honest, unless you just say, hey, it's Lego blank. Are you just going to make a regular animated movie and then just slap the Lego license on it? I feel like, really, to Warner Brothers' credit, they really did pretty much all you could with that property. They made something smart, different, that embraced the Lego beliefs and aesthetic without shoving it down your throat in a really cynical way. And I don't know if I would trust Universal in the same way with that. Now, Warner Brothers aren't going to hurt. They have loads of animated properties. Of course, Hanna-Barbera is a massive slate they have coming up. But neither are Universal. Universal have Illumination, so I don't know how expensive this deal was. I think what you could do is very easily, they could use it for properties on their streaming services, TV shows, that kind of thing. But, you know, Lego is the biggest toy company in the world. So I'm sure they will find something to do with it, even though I feel like the property is kind of done pretty much most of the things it can done theatrically. I hope I'm wrong. But regardless, I've talked about this for way too long. Anyway, so yeah, Lego's gone from Warner Brothers. We don't know what's coming next. But whatever is going to come next will be at Universal. Another property, another franchise we know is going to continue, and this is something of a surprise, if only for reasons that we were expecting it for a long time and it just kind of was announced with such little fanfare. And that's that there's going to be another Bioshock game. 2K officially announced that there's going to be a fourth Bioshock, with a statement from their president: "As we continue growing our product portfolio, we remain inspired by opportunities to invest further in our valuable IP, great people, and their collective long-term potential," said David Ismailer, president of 2K Games. Bioshock is one of the most beloved, critically praised, and highest rated franchise of the last console generation. We can't wait to see where its powerful narrative and iconic first-person shooter gameplay head in the future, with our new studio team at Cloud Chamber leading the charge. So let's make a few notes of this, and let's go a little bit into the history of Bioshock. Okay, I don't often do a deep dive on games. Some people have even said they don't like when I talk about games on the podcast, but we'll do this quickly. Bioshock is a fantastic video game series. It was quite intelligent. It was really, for a long time, almost solely like the holding up the argument of our video games art. The first Bioshock was fantastic. It's a little bit dated, but it still holds up quite well. We had a second Bioshock 2 or 3 years later. The last one was Bioshock Infinite in 2013. Now, if you're doing the math, that means that Bioshock has sat out the entire last console generation. Now, what's also of interest, this is coming from Cloud Chamber, which is an internal team at 2K Games. The games up to this have been made by Irrational Games, who have worked under the 2K label. It's been a kind of a separate game studio. Normally, I believe nearly all of them were overseen by a man called Ken Levine, who was the kind of director of these properties. And he's very much spoken about how stressful it was for him. In fact, he basically killed off his own studio and is now making smaller games because it was so stressful working on these properties, which sounds like it was the case for a lot of people working on these games originally. So what that means is we're going into a new Bioshock that could be massively different. It's coming from a new studio. Now, there are people on board that have worked on Bioshock before, creative directors and art directors and that kind of thing, which is great because that is a massive part of Bioshock. But I don't necessarily know what this is going to be. Now, the other thing is, I'm not entirely sure why they announced this at all, because they did basically warn us that this is several years away. So we could be waiting a long time for this. Obviously, it's not going to be on this generation of consoles, which means that Bioshock has set out that whole generation, aside from the Bioshock collection that came out recently. It's also not the first time they've been developing a Bioshock 4. They're apparently developing a Bioshock 4 and then canned the whole thing and then moved it over to this Cloud Chamber studio, which is new. I think this is their first project, actually. Other possible rumors about this have said that it's going to be massively multiplayer focused. I believe not unlike Borderlands 3 or Fallout 76. Multiplayer has never been a massive part of Bioshock. I don't know how that would work. Really, Bioshock, in my opinion, gameplay has been great. I think, but when you go back to the first one, it was kind of a bit static. What really did it was the story, the setting, and the ideas, kind of even philosophical, psychological ideas, were very strong in that game. If they can retain that, this will be good. But it's hard to see where it's going. Again, it's too early to say, but some places didn't even pick up on this, which, not entirely surprising, I suppose. But, well, it's one to keep an eye on, because those games were especially important, I think, at that time of video games, and they were really good. I say that as someone who only played Bioshock Infinite for the first time, maybe 2 years ago, even less. It really holds up. Those are great games. So, yeah, 4 Bioshock is coming. Not the only franchise that got announced as having a 4th entry. We're going to go from high art to possibly low art here. Jackass 4 has been confirmed by Paramount Pictures. This is I don't know how it come across. Okay, this might be surprising. I am a massive fan of Jackass. I'm like an encyclopedia on Jackass as well. I absolutely love that stuff. So this kind of completely came out of nowhere, to be honest. For a long, long time, Jackass movies were coming basically every 4 years. You had Jackass the movie, Jackass number 2, Jackass 3D, and again, you had spin-offs like Bad Grandpa and that kind of thing. So the last entry of the proper Jackass movies theatrically was in 2010. And yeah, this is coming out apparently March 2021, which means it'll have been over 10 years, coming up on 11 years since there was a Jackass movie. It's I don't know what is going on with this, for a few reasons. The reports in this were quite strange, and it didn't confirm that it was going to be the original cast. It is, for the record, it's going to be the original cast. It absolutely is. Some people are saying, is this going to, which is kind of funny in some ways, that we're like, because we're in that age of Hollywood now where it's rebooting younger casts, all that kind of stuff, and everyone's like, are they going to reboot and give us a younger cast of Jackass? Which I suppose, but I think like when you look at all the stuff, even MTV and other places have tried since of trying to make, these kind of group of lovable idiots doing stunts and that kind of thing, it's never really worked again. Not the stunts aspect of it anyway. There is kind of hidden camera stuff we might get to in a minute when we talk about trailers, but they've never managed to do it. There's been, I could go through a whole list. The Nitro Circus guys, they were tremendously talented, never really took off as a TV series or a movie. Dudeson's Finnish guys, again, massively successful in Finland, didn't really translate to America. Dirty Sanchez or Team Sanchez never really got off the ground. There's something now I think called Too Stupid to Die or something. Again, I think it had one season and got cancelled. They've never, as strange as it is and as stupid as simple as Jackass is, they've never managed to capture that lightning in a bottle with anyone doing it ever again. I think because, especially because like you can see stupid people doing things on YouTube like that all the time anyway. And it's kind of odd because, of course, with the original cast back, I think Johnny Knoxville is going to be nearly 50. Bam Margera is going to be 40-something. These guys are going to be quite old now, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that this will be the first Jackass movie without Ryan Dunn, who died in 2011, I believe. So it's an odd thing. I don't know if it was. I know that some people have suggested, like major Jackass fans have said, the reason it hasn't happened already is that Bam Margera is not in a great place as far as and I think he's been very public about this online. He's kind of having issues, possibly substance abuse and alcohol issues, and possibly I think some mental health issues as well. But hopefully he gets some help that he needs, and this happens. As much as I'm sort of excited, I mean, like the last time I saw a Jackass movie, I think I was in 6th year. Now I'm nearly 10 years on. Like, as much as I'm excited to see another Jackass movie, there's a bit of a twinge of sadness in that these guys are really old now. I'm sure I'll enjoy it at the time. I don't know what it means. You don't want to see relatively old people getting hurt. Not that that's an old age, but yeah, for what they're doing, it's old. So that's all we know, really. It's also quite surprising, I think, that they announced it so far out. It's not. I think normally the Jackass movies are announced maybe 10 months away, which I get. This is like 15 months. Yeah, look, these movies make money. They'll have a low budget. They'll make a lot of money. I'm glad to see it back. I don't know what form it's going to take. I've spent way too much time talking about Jackass the same way I did Lego. There's not as much stuff to analyze there. That's what news we got in Jackass 4 is coming. What it means for the future, aside from that, we don't entirely know. Speaking of the future, though, we did get a look into the future of Xbox. The Video Game Awards were on since our last episode. I'll be honest, the Video Game Awards bore me. It's just not very exciting. I didn't watch them this year. I watched them other years, and it's just kind of very dry, very awkward. It's a massive thing, though. They're bigger than the Oscars and the Emmys, apparently. But, I didn't watch them. I kind of looked through the nominations. I was like, yeah, that's kind of expected. I think it's been a quiet enough year game-wise as we move into a new console anyway. But the big thing we did get, and I look towards the future, was that we got to hear and see your official reveal of the new Xbox. So, the title, are you ready for this? The Xbox Series X. Yes, thank you. Xbox Series X, yeah. Mm-hmm. Why are Microsoft so bad at naming their consoles? So we have the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X. So, not to mention that there's Xbox One S, Xbox Pros. Like, Xbox Series X is going to confuse so many people. I wonder, like, there was people saying for a long time that when the Wii had the Wii U, which, yeah, just in case there was a console after the Wii called the Wii U. A lot of people don't know that because of the name. I don't know, is the name going to throw people off? I'm not entirely sure. We got to look at what it looks like. It basically kind of looks like a tower. Quite thin. It looks quite bulky. The way they're showing it off, they're having it stand vertically. I don't think anyone's going to have the console really static vertically. I don't know if anyone have room, considering it looks like quite a big console. But you can lay it down horizontally, they've confirmed. You know, it's a fine looking console. I can't say anything too bad about it. It's pretty generic. Again, it is a massive tower. Yeah, it's fine. I won't take anything away from it. There was some very cool things we got though. We did get to see the new controller, which is largely the same as the previous controllers. It's now got a share button, which is, you know, kind of what's expected now. The PS4 has one. The Switch has one, I believe. What's really impressive though is that these controllers are going to work with previous Xboxes, and that the previous Xbox controllers will work with the new console. So your Xbox One controllers will work with this. That's good. I think that would probably put pressure on Sony, certainly to do that if they haven't already. The other big thing that I think is, what's good about this, okay, I'll say this about the reveal and about Microsoft and Xbox right now. They're clearly learning of the mistakes they made in announcing the Xbox One. They had that disastrous E3 when it was first announced, and they basically had to backtrack on as much as they could. It was really funny. I think that was 2013 maybe. What was really funny about it was like Microsoft had their like press conference first, and they were like, and there's none of this, and you have to always be online. And then straight away Sony were there like 5 hours later, and basically their whole conference was doing the opposite, where they were just like, you don't have to always be online. Woo! Oh, I should have used my sound machine for that. God damn it. Sound machines are expensive, you know. Yeah, backwards compatible across 4 generations. The Xbox One has that as well. So it's basically what it is like you have the disc, you put the disc in, and then you're able to download a digital copy if it's available online. So that's good news. We didn't get many ideas though about the specs, what that means. Who knows really? Yeah, I think this is good. I don't think it, again. I mean, without the specs and without seeing it play, we're really just judging it on the look of it, and the look of it is fine. We'll get more details, I'm sure. I think we'll probably hear about Sony's one very soon as well, because they're both set to come out this holiday season. I mean, next holiday season. I forgot we're in a holiday season already. Okay. Last thing we're going to talk about is the Golden Globe nominations. It's barely worth talking about these, to be honest, but we will anyway. I think they're January 6th, is it? January 5th, maybe? They're quite soon. The Golden Globes are very, very early. They're January 5th, yeah, which is the first week of January, obviously. We have our nominations. There's a few notable snubs from a few films, I would say. Best Motion Picture Drama. We have The Irishman on Netflix. Marriage Story on Netflix. 1917. Joker, The Two Popes on Netflix. Best Actress in Motion Picture Drama. Cynthia Erivo. Okay, welcome to the segment of the show, in case you've never heard me do an award segment before, where I butcher the names of everyone. So first up, Cynthia Erivo, Harriet. Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story. Saoirse Ronan for Little Women. Charlize Theron for Bombshell. Renee Zellweger for Judy. Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, Christian Bale for Ford Ferrari. Antonio Banderas, Pain and Glory. Adam Driver, Marriage Story. Joaquin Phoenix and Joker. Jonathan Pryce and Two Popes. Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, Dolomite Is My Name, Netflix. Jojo Rabbit, Fox. Knives Out, Lionsgate. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Sony. Rocketman, Paramount. Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. I'm going to speed through some of these. Ana de Armas from Knives Out. Aquafina for The Farewell. Kate Blanchett for Where'd You Go, Bernadette. Beanie Feldstein for Booksmart. Emma Thompson for Late Night. Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, Daniel Craig for Knives Out. Roman Griffin Davis for Jojo Rabbit. That's fantastic. He's a very, very young actor, so good for him. Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Taron Egerton, Rocketman. Eddie Murphy, Dolomite Is My Name. I'm not going to go through all of these. Best Motion Picture, Animated, is Frozen 2, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. The Lion King, that's right, it's going up for Animated. I guess technically that makes sense, sort of. Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. So we have 3 Disney films, the animated ones this year. Best Motion Picture, Foreign Language. This is one of the most competitive categories I've seen in years. The Farewell from A24, Les Mis on Amazon, Pain and Glory, that's Pedro Almodovar's latest film, Parasite, and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Let's see, is there anything else worth talking about? Best Actress in Supporting Role in Any Motion Picture, Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell, Lynette Benning for The Report, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers, Margot Robbie for Bombshell. Best Actor in a Supporting Role in Any Motion Picture, Tom Hanks, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins for Two Popes, Al Pacino for The Irishman, Joe Pesci for The Irishman, Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Director of a Motion Picture, Boon Jong-ho for Parasite, Sam Mendes for 1917, Todd Phillips for Joker, Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Screenplay for a Motion Picture, Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story, Boon Joon-ho and Han Jin-won for Parasite. I'm not doing too bad in these names now. Give me a break, okay? Anthony McCartan for The Two Popes, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Steve Zahn for The Irishman. Best Original Song, Cats. That's the only thing I'll mention there. Best Television Series for a Drama, Big Little Lies, The Crown, Killing Eve, The Morning Show, and Succession. Best Performance by an Actress in a Television Series, Jennifer Aniston, Olivia Colman, Jodie Comer, Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon. I did name their shows, but I'm not going back now. Best Performance by an Actor in a TV Series, Brian Cox for Succession, Kit Harington for Game of Thrones, Rami Malek for Mr. Robot, Tobias Menzies for The Crown, Biddy Porter for Pose. Best Television Series, Musical or Comedy, Barry, Fleabag on Amazon, Comiskey Method on Netflix, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, The Politician on Netflix. Right. I'm going to read out one more category and then I'll stop and I'll explain what categories I called out and why. Catch-22 on Hulu, Chernobyl on HBO for This is Best Television Limited Series, Phosphor Dawn on FX, The Loudest Voice on Showtime, and Unbelievable on Netflix. Right. I'm going to stop calling out the nominations there. Sorry for just reading out a long list to you. What we need to notice here, the reason I call it studios is because this is officially the year where Netflix seems to have taken over Hollywood. Out of the 5 nominated for Best Motion Picture Drama, 3 of them are from Netflix. The Irishman, Marriage Story, and The Two Popes. We had this kind of thing last year, this whole controversy of Roma, and people were making it very hard. The Golden Globes, again, they're not really always an indication of the Oscars. Sometimes, they kind of nominate stuff that's a joke. It's somewhat corrupt system. To be honest, there have been ways people have basically got around it and impressed the Hollywood foreign press. I won't go too far into that, but we should take it for what it's worth because those films were all very, very good. It does seem like they could have a better shake at getting some proper recognition and awards this year. Best Actress in a Motion Picture or Drama. I haven't seen any of these films. Oh no, I've seen 2 of them. So Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, I think there's a good chance she will take it. Bombshell is having a little bit of kickback. Renee Zellweger as Judy, I think, is a bit of a dark horse there. She was very good in the film, but I think they'd probably go with Scarlett. But again, it's hard to call the Golden Globe, especially. Best Actor in a Motion Picture. I'd like to see Adam Driver win it, but I think Joaquin Phoenix for Joker will probably get it. He was very good in that film, to be fair. Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. This is an interesting category because, of course, the big difference with the Oscars is that they don't distinguish between drama or comedy. So Netflix are in here as well with Dolomite Is My Name, which is kind of a surprise. I think this category is kind of odd because a lot of times it feels like films just get nominated because they're a musical or because they're a comedy. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is there. I wouldn't have considered that a comedy really. It's not much of a drama, I guess, but all right. Like Rocketman is there. I really liked Rocketman, but maybe it's just there because it's a musical. Knives Out. Knives Out is getting a lot of love here, actually, including in Best Actress. Ana de Armas is nominated. That's quite a strange list. And again, this kind of speaks to when you have a musical or comedy section at an award. So, like Kate Blanchett is there for Where'd You Go, Bernadette? I don't. Why bother? Beanie Feldstein from Booksmart is there, which she was very good in that film. Again, it's a surprise. As for who will win it, I think Awkwafina might well do it. But even like The Farewell, fairly dramatic. If you, I guess you could call it a comedy, like it's light, but it's pretty dramatic. Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Daniel Craig is a bit surprising there. Roman Griffin Davis is a bit surprising there, even though I think it's mainly because Daniel Craig, is kind of a bit over the top, but I'm surprised he got nominated, I guess. Roman Griffin Davis is surprising because he is very, very young, but I'm glad to see him nominated. He was fantastic in the film. DiCaprio, maybe he'll win it, but again, I didn't think it was, although it was a good performance, but I could see possibly Taron Egerton getting away with it. Again, I don't think these are necessarily reflecting what the Oscars are going to look like by virtue of the fact that it is split up by a drama or musical. As I said, Best Motion Picture Foreign Language is probably the most competitive year I've seen it in. I think this is Parasite's one to lose. Parasite is getting massive critical praise. I haven't been able to see it. It hasn't been released in Ireland, unfortunately. I have seen The Farewell. I have seen The Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Both very good films. I think Parasite critically is getting a bit more love, so I could see that getting it. I haven't seen many of the films in the supporting actress role or best supporting role, to be fair. Two people from The Irishman nominated, though. Al Pacino and Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci was good in the film. I just don't think he deserved it. I think this is kind of sometimes when they give a kind of a legacy award, it kind of feels like that. Best director for motion picture. Boon Joon-ho for Parasite. I'm surprised Todd Phillips is there. Like, I know a lot of people really like Joker, but I didn't feel like the directing and that wasn't necessarily anything special. But Tarantino, I don't think he's going to win it. Scorsese for The Irishman, yeah, maybe. Best screenplay for motion picture. I think Noah Baumbach could easily win that for Marriage Story, to be honest. I think that's the sort of thing they'd like. Yeah, that's, I think another thing that's very notable, as far as we're talking about, you know, what's nominated, what's not nominated. The Lighthouse is quite a worthy snub. I think I'm not surprised. It's just that bit weird. It would have to fit into drama, I guess. But yeah, it's a little bit weird. I hope the Oscars don't reflect that as well. I would have liked to see some of the performances in that film nominated as well because they were really good. So that was completely snubbed, completely shut out. Best television series for drama, you know, Game of Thrones was pretty much almost totally shut out of these awards. So he's got some of the acting nominations, but well, actually, it got one acting nomination. It got Kit Harington, which is hilarious because he was barely in this season. Really, it seemed like all his dialogue was just "my queen," you know. But anyway, best television series, musical or comedy, Fleabag is having a massive year. I think, you know, the way it did great at the Emmys, I could see it doing well here as well. So yeah, those are Golden Globes. Not especially exciting, and you know, it is what it is. The Golden Globes, again, I don't think are always necessarily an indication of the way the Oscars or the rest of the award season is going to go. So take it for what it's worth. In other news, they're still not making Akira. On to trailer trash.
This is the theme for trailer.
This is the theme for trailer. This is the theme for trailer trash. Get in the bin.
Get in the bin.
Two films came out with female superheroes. One Marvel, one DC. We want to talk about the Marvel one first, and that is Black Widow got its first trailer. A lot of people underwhelmed by this trailer. I guess that makes sense, though. This should kind of be a bit of smaller budget. You know, she's quite a practical character in many ways. For me, a few things kind of steal this trailer. One is the music, which I don't know what it is. It just sounds like someone, well, pressing the siren button on the sound machine. You know, it's just, I don't know, it really got me pumped up. So this takes place between Civil War and Infinity War, I believe. And it's kind of like the first 20 seconds are just showing like kind of flashbacks to our other adventures in Marvel movies, as if it's kind of building up to this point. Who knows how much it's going to factor in. It's a fine trailer that offers a few interesting things. There's not much there. It's good as a teaser trailer, I will say. So first of all, I guess we should mention that we meet Florence Pugh, who is Yelena Belova. A lot of people are suggesting she's going to be kind of the new Black Widow in the MCU, going to take over that mantle as she had sometimes in the comics. Not much to say about her character. She has kind of a kitchen fight with Scarlett Johansson. It looks pretty good. They swap guns, man. They did it. Yeah, a lot of the fight scenes in this, I think, have a lot of potential to be good, kind of gritty. But you always kind of worry with these big budget movies that try to do action if it's going to just be kind of a sanitized CGI action fest. Hopefully not. I think it needs a bit of grit for this story. What else is in the trailer? We have, you know, your drunk uncle at Comic-Con, the Red Guardian, played by David Harbour. I joke, but I think actually he looks awesome as the Red Guardian. Like, just that's exactly what he wants. He's kind of this. They make joke about his weight. This guy just kind of stuffed into this kind of Russian Captain America costume. Looks good. I assume at some point, you know, that it kind of shows her family, I guess, with the Black Widows, which is Rachel Weisz, who used to be a Black Widow. I think we actually have a shot in the trailer of her early on as a Black Widow, I think. Yelena Belova and the Red Guardian. So that's kind of her unit. Now, you got to imagine that some of them are going to betray her. Rachel Weisz, I would say, and the Red Guardian kind of are on the money there, I would suggest. But yeah, I think I really like that dynamic and like the kind of family dynamic. Although it's kind of weird, just feel like it. Well, actually, oh, okay. What I was going to say was, you know, the movie section, the trailer actually starts with her talking over from Endgame, which is when she says, I never really had anything, a family or whatever before this. And I was going to say, oh, well, this kind of steps over that, but obviously Endgame takes place after this, so maybe she thought she had a family and it breaks apart. I don't know. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it. I love the costumes she has in this. There's one that she has that's black that looks a little bit different. That's very good. I just think in general she kind of needs a few kind of variations to her costume. Sometimes she kind of gets the short end of the stick. And oh god, that white costume. That is such a gorgeous costume. I'm going to say spoilers for Endgame. I mean, who the hell hasn't seen Endgame? In fact, I think pretty sure there's a spoiler shot in this. But look, I don't know what they're going to do with Black Widow going forward. I mean, they could always do a sequel and set it somewhere else. I don't want them to bring the character back. I know there's ways they could. They could grab a Black Widow from another timeline. But it would really kind of take the tension out of it and just ruin any possibility. You could bring any character back by that logic. I think it's a good trailer. I'm a little bit apprehensive about it. I've seen people compare it to like G.I. Joe. That could be the case. Over the top CGI action fest, and hopefully it's not. We got to look at our villain, or at least one of our villains, if there's not, maybe perhaps some more. Taskmaster. I'll say what I said before, which is that I like the costume. I think it's good and kind of practical and realistic. I wish they had a more of the skull design into it, because Taskmaster is such a badass costume. There's a chance that could happen more so later on in the film. There's also a shot of William Hurt's General Ross, de-aged, so it looks like we're going to get some sort of flashback. He could very well be the person that actually takes Natasha into the Black Widow program, and which of course we see the kind of Black Widow program working a bit throughout this trailer. So yeah, it's a good trailer. I won't say it blew me away, but it's decent. It's good for a teaser trailer. Hopefully the next trailer will kind of amp up the action. But yeah, for what it is, not that bad. Looks like it could be a good kind of action-y spy thriller. Now the other superhero trailer we got with a female lead was Wonder Woman 84. This of course coming from DC. I really like this trailer actually. I rewatched it before recording it just now. And I gotta admit, I like it a lot more on a repeat viewing. I was kind of indifferent to it beforehand. Now, I will say as well, there is story leaks going around of Wonder Woman 84. And a lot of people have said that A, they're not good, and B, this trailer confirms them. But, take that with a grain of salt. We don't get too much to go on, I would say, from this. It's again, it is very much a teaser. But it's very stylish. I think, first of all, the look of the film is very, very colourful. We've kind of moved on from the gritty war stuff of the Zack Snyder kind of view. Very colourful, very well lit, lovely cinematography. It's a gorgeous looking movie. Anyway, whatever else, I think it looks amazing in that department. Gal Gadot is back, obviously. Steve Trevor's back, which doesn't make sense. Chris Pine is in that role again. They're going to explain it. I've seen rumours of how he's coming back, which I won't say here. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. We have who else? We have Pedro Pascal, who is playing Maxwell Lord. Oh, I love his character, and just from the trailer, I just love the way he uses such a kind of sleazy businessman kind of persona, like I can get you what you want, that kind of thing, Also, he seems to be holding a very important MacGuffin. He's holding a kind of a rock, kind of a diamondy thing. A lot of people have suggested this can grant wishes in some regard. So yeah, I think that's going to be one of the major kind of elements of the movie. Maybe that's how Steve Trevor comes back. Maybe that's how Kristen Wiig becomes a Cheetah. I think it's a Cheetara. Cheetah. I can't even remember that her name. It is Cheetah, isn't it? Ugh. Yeah, it's Cheetah. It sounds so simple. I sound like I'm forgetting something or missing something. Yeah, we don't see her as Cheetah. We see her as Minerva, I believe her alter ego's name is, and it's fine. I'm assuming she's going to eventually be full like feline, There's one part in the trailer that gives me concern, which is that when you start off trailer, she's kind of got the glasses a bit kind of awkward, and then like at a party where she's turning heads, everyone's like, "Ooh," which makes me kind of worry if it's going to be like, remember the Riddler in Batman Forever, where it's like, oh, I'm obsessed with the superhero, and now I've had a change, and now I'm amazing. So I don't know if that's going to be it. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe that's a big leap. Speaking of big leaps, Wonder Woman does a big leap off a flippy truck. Haven't seen a flippy truck in an action movie in a while, have we? Oh, that used to be a big thing back in the 2000s. What else is there to say? Not much. Again, I think what really steals this trailer is the visuals. Wonder Woman seems to have also abandoned her sword and her shield, and instead is now using her lasso, and we see a lot of different uses for that, which is pretty cool. one of which is her swing off lightning, which is badass. The invisible jet is seemingly in the trailer. Of course, we can't tell if it's invisible or not, because we're seeing it from the inside. But yeah, very colourful looking film. It looks fairly good in that regard. At the end of the trailer, she's wearing her golden eagle armor. A lot of people are mad for this. I don't like the design of it. I think it looks very clunky in the head. But aside from that, not a bad look at the film. I'm not entirely sold on it. But visually, I think it looks very good. I know this means nothing to most people, right? Actually, at one point she throws her tiara like a boomerang as well to take out a security camera, which is cool. Although it is kind of weird. It's like, is she really trying to conceal her identity like that much anymore? I know they're kind of trying to be somewhat faithful to Batman v Superman, where she had like one photo, and that was it of her. It also does it say something that it's taken her like how long now to get over Steve Trevor? 70 years? Is that right? Like, I don't know. Regardless. Also, is that mall that she's in, that, like, I know this will mean maybe one thing to one person. That mall looks like the mall in the movie Commando, right? It looks like the exact same mall. Anyway, that yeah, like I said, Wonder Woman trailer, pretty good. Not entirely sold on every aspect of it, but it looks visually stunning, if nothing else. Another movie I'm not sold on at all, but I will say how I did enjoy the trailer, is Ghostbusters Afterlife. This is kind of what I was talking earlier about reboots, where it's like, ooh, that was quick. Ghostbusters is coming back after only 4 years. I think people would be a lot more hyped if it wasn't for the one in 2016, which we're not going to get into. This is an interesting trailer, because obviously when you think Ghostbusters, you think comedy. Now there is serious aspects to it. The threats are very serious, and the supernatural stuff is taken relatively seriously. This is a very kind of dour trailer, very serious trailer. I'm pretty sure I predicted all of this, by the way, if you go back to a few episodes where I said that these kids were going to be Spengler's, grandkids, and they are, seemingly. So our characters are new characters. We don't see any of the old ones. I wonder how much of them we are going to see, to be honest. I moved into this kind of remote town in the middle of nowhere. Very much a Stranger Things vibe going on here, which isn't surprising, especially because Finn Wolfhard is also in it. They moved to this town. Seems like things going on in this town. Yeah, Paul Rudd is a teacher for them. I kind of like how he's not like, just a proper, like, I don't know. I like his character as like an everyday character, as opposed to like a big, massive role in the whole thing, or like immediately being like, hey, he's a Ghostbuster too, So basically, it's 30 years after the original. Seemingly, once again, everyone has forgotten or doesn't care about ghosts anymore. They said they haven't seen a ghost in like 30 years, so I don't know what that means for the Ghostbusters of our yesteryear, whether they got work or what. But this town is going mad, seemingly all stemming from a mining camp. I think it says Shandor Mining, which I believe is also a reference to the original Ghostbusters. I think the building was designed by Shandor, maybe. A lot of people, speaking about the original Ghostbusters, have speculated that this is going to be a revival of Gozer, because there's a few allusions to it. We see a paw that looks very much like the monsters. Was it Zool and Clortho and Keymaster? Is it? I can't remember. I'm mixing up my Ghostbusters lore here. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think they deliberately didn't put too much comedy in it because they were kind of went full blast with the comedy last time and got bitten by it. I think there will be some comedy. I think if nothing else, you have Jason Reitman directing, son of the original directors, Ivan Reitman. He knows that it needs a dose of comedy, but I think this is just going to be very much kind of like, hey, we're not going to go out and out comedy like the last one. There's going to be serious elements. A lot of people say it reminds them of Tremors, which I totally get, and it looks fine. I think it seems very kind of low budget in some way. I think that works as well. I don't think you need like it to be completely over the top like the last one was. I think this very much is very like basically addressing all the criticisms of the first one for the first trailer. I think we'll probably get other aspects that would be more similar to the 2016 one, to the original one, but I think they're trying to basically say, okay, look, we're not going to screw this up. We're going to take our time. We're going to do something a little bit different that hopefully you will enjoy. Again, strong Stranger Things vibe. The big kind of cameo, the big money shot, I guess, is the reveal of the Ecto-1, which now has a sidecar. I'm not entirely sold on the general idea, which is kids going around fighting ghosts. Hopefully we'll get something that like. I don't think they need to be kids fighting ghosts. I think that's just a little bit weird. But I'm not gonna lie, I got absolute goosebumps watching the Ecto 1 and hearing that proper siren again. That was just awesome. I love that. But yeah, I'm not entirely sold on the movie. Hopefully, it'll be good. But yeah, not a bad trailer. I will say my interest for it has definitely gone up after seeing it. Another trailer we got that I want to talk about was for Free Guy. This is a Ryan Reynolds comedy that was a Fox movie and of course is now a Disney movie. And the reason I bring that up is because honestly my favourite joke in the whole trailer isn't in the movie. It's like, for the trailer it says like, from the studio brought you Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King. And then it says twice, which will relate to the film we're going to talk about in a sec. But this is, I like the idea of this one, the story I enjoy quite a lot. Basically, Ryan Reynolds is this kind of non-player character in this massive online game. Looks basically like GTA, but I see other elements of like Fortnite and that kind of thing. And one day, very much he just decides to, I'm not going to be a non-player character anymore, I'm going to get involved. So we see him like fighting off a bank robbery. So he just decides he's not going to be an NPC anymore. It kind of feels a bit like the Lego movie in that regard, actually. Now, basically it's Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds again. He's kind of slowly, maybe quickly getting typecast as the kind of meta comedy guy. This is a little bit Deadpool, It's not a bad trailer. I will say I love the concept, and I liked where it was going. But as it went on, I kind of lost interest in it. And in the trailer even, it just felt like very kind of glossy, kind of soulless, not especially funny. There was some good jokes towards the beginning. I mean, I think Ryan Reynolds can carry a movie like this to make it at least watchable. I didn't love it. It kind of gave me Pixels vibes, kind of gave me Ghostbusters 2016 vibes towards the end. But I thought it was a decent trailer. I just didn't love it as much as I thought it would, or as much as I loved the concept. But hopefully, things kind of, click in later marketing material. But yeah, check it out if it's for you. We talked about Disney making the same movie twice, and they've done it again with Mulan, which we got a trailer for. I can't say I'm a massive fan of the original Mulan. I know it's good, but I'm not a huge fan of it. But that being said, this trailer at least, looks excellent. It looks like such a big epic, I don't mean like, oh, it looks epic. I mean, like, it looks like a massive epic with martial arts and military war and that kind of stuff. It looks like it really hits the emotional beats as well in the trailer. It's a lot of people were kind of annoyed that is it Mushu? Yeah, Mushu, Eddie Murphy's character, isn't in the movie. And I think one of the reasons was, it wouldn't be very realistic. And here we are with like a witch and magic, someone who can turn into a phoenix. But yeah, no one really bats an eyelid at that. It was interesting in that regard. Now, a lot of people are disappointed that it's not going to be as faithful to the original. Obviously, aside from the missing Mushu, I think they've said there's not going to be any music in this. But there are a few allusions to it, which is nice. The score plays When Will My Reflection Show, or whatever it is called. Reflection, I guess, is probably its full title. And there's even a few shots that look like they come from a scene where that happened. So even if the music isn't sung, I think the emotional beat will be there and the score will represent that. And it sounds like a very lovely orchestral edition of it. And another point, there's obviously that song, Make a Man Out of You. And at a certain point, one of the characters says, we're going to make men out of you. So I think this was sort of the trailer to try to satiate fans that were annoyed some of that stuff was missing. But to be honest, I don't know how fan or not you could watch this trailer and not say it's not at the very least, a good trailer. I think they've added a few things that seemingly work. I think the way it's shot looks very good. The special effects look good, but it looks like there's quite a lot of practical stuff in it. The villain of Mulan was always very kind of 2D, but he now has the help of a witch, and it kind of feels like, strengthening that villain might work a bit with that kind of dynamic, hopefully. But yeah, I'm actually more excited for this than I thought I would be. It makes me kind of want to go back and watch the original Mulan. Because this looks like kind of, it sounds stupid to say, but it looks like a movie. Which not a lot of these Disney ones, the live action Disney ones did. It feels like it's sort of its own thing. But also pays a few homages to the source material without being absolutely slavishly devoted. So yeah, really enjoyed that. Another trailer we got this week was for the latest Bond film. Now, I've thrown my fair share of digs at this movie as production problems, at why I think it could suck. But, well, okay, two things about this trailer. I think it's a good trailer, and it's a weird trailer, because it's just very strangely put together. There's some very strange elements they put in this trailer and things that I'm not entirely sure why they revealed what they did. I don't know. First of all, it starts literally in the middle of an action scene, which I kind of liked, I think. There's a lot of action in this. I hope they don't give away too many of the massive set pieces or whatever. And the basic trailer starts with him getting angry at Lea Seydoux' character. I think her name is Dr. Swan. From the last film, from Spectre. They're obviously in some form of relationship still. Possibly married, there was a lot of rumours that this movie was going to be an homage that basically Bond is retired, which he is. He's retired in this, by the way. This is like sixth time, I'd say, retiring in a Bond film. This is probably only his fifth film, and it's probably his sixth time retiring. Every film he's like, I'm retired. Or like, oh, you're out of the game, Bond. You're too old. And then he just comes back, and it's he's fine. Yeah, she seemingly has some secret, and it's like, oh, when the secret gets out, you won't be safe. And so seemingly she is tied in some way to the villain played by Rami Malek, which isn't a surprise, because I only looked it up to remember her character name a minute ago. And she was the daughter of Mr. White, who was also a Bond villain. I'm not a huge fan of the kind of continuity between the Craig movies. I think sometimes it needs to be a bit more self-contained. But yeah, Rami Malek's villain is quite odd. We don't get too many shots of him. He's wearing a kind of I don't know what you call it, like a kabuki mask maybe. That's kind of broken. You kind of see his teeth under it. His face seems to be somewhat deformed. It seems like a real throwback Bond villain. I felt like one of the problems with Spectre was how many times they tried to make a kind of a throwback movie. Hopefully that won't be the case here, because there is some throwbacks in it, but hopefully it'll come together. Rami Malek is a good actor. We don't get much of him in this trailer. What we do get in the trailer, and I was surprised by this, that they're giving this away in trailer, especially because I believe the director denied he was in the movie, which is that Christoph Waltz is Black as Blofeld. He has some degree of connection or awareness of Bond's wife. Well, I'm assuming it's his wife. I don't entirely remember. Spat. Other things in the trailer, we get Lashana Lynch, who's another 00 agent. This was the one that they created all the controversy, because everyone was like, they're turning Bond into a black woman. When really she's just a 00 agent, probably 007 that Bond is retired, which is totally grand. I like the kind of chemistry between them, actually. They're sort of playing up that, like, you're the old model, and you know what, I'm here now, stay out of my way kind of thing. There's a kind of friction there that I quite like. We get a very brief shot at Ana de Armas, who I believe is a Bond girl in the film. Very little of her in this trailer, but again, I don't think this film is finished even filming yet, so I think they just put this trailer as quick as they could. There's a lot of action scenes in it, a lot of glimpses of action in it. Probably most notably is the end of it, where we see the Aston Martin bringing out 2 machine guns or headlights, and Bond doing donuts. 2 miniguns, I guess, more specifically. Pretty cool trailer shot, to be honest. Yeah, the action in this looks really good. As far as the way it's shot, I really enjoy it. I think, the director is Kerry Fukunaga, who's a fantastic director. It has a certain visual flair. There's a lot of interesting shots in this. I like the lighting in some of the scenes. There's one shot at the end that's really cool. That looks like it's going to be probably the intro to the film, because it looks like they very much have a tunnel that's shaped like the barrel of the gun at the opening of all the Bond movies. Yeah, for a movie I've kind of taken a few shots at, I really enjoyed this trailer, and I hope that it is actually turning out to be a pretty good film, because if this is in fact Daniel Craig's last Bond film, which we assume it is, then hopefully it's a good one, because he's done some pretty good movies as Bond. Another trailer we got, and this one I'm okay, we got. I'll say how I'm feeling about this trailer. This is a trailer for Christopher Nolan's new film, which is Tenet. I felt like Homer Simpson watching Twin Peaks. When he's sitting down and he's like, brilliant. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. That's exactly how I felt watching Tenet, because I don't have any idea what's going on. It looks really good. I don't know what's going on. We don't have a plot for it yet, for one. John David Washington is our lead, and there's some elements that remind me of Looper. There does seem to be some degree of time travel involved, we see a lot of moments where people are walking forward and things are going backwards. So maybe these are kind of agents that have control of some sort of time travel. There's a moment in the trailer, for example, where something has happened to the room, but the event hasn't happened yet. There's bullet holes in the glass, and he goes, "It's from something that hasn't happened yet." Mind blown. There's a moment where they're driving, Rob Pattinson and John David Washington. They're kind of, one's driving backwards, one's driving forward, I think. And there's a car that flips over, destroyed, and then pieces it back together and is back on the road because it's gone back in time, I guess. There's waves going backwards, ship going backwards. I don't know what's going on, is what I'm trying to say. Didn't give much indication. At one point, someone tells him, "Welcome to the afterlife." So I don't know if there's supernatural elements involved. Christopher Nolan doesn't generally do kind of supernaturally stuff. Generally, he kind of does like sort of science-y stuff, very loosely science fiction and action. Once again, we have a character that looks exactly like Christopher Nolan, which he has in like nearly all his movies now, with Robert Pattinson, even dresses the same as him. Again, no idea what's going on, but it is a very good trailer. I am very interested. Tenet is also seemingly, in the context of the film, some word that gets you access to all these areas, as we're told. Yeah, not much else to say, really. They're trying to stop something that would be the end of the world, basically. It's not nuclear wars. They made that very clear. But it's something that would cause World War III, apparently. So, aside from that, we don't really know what's going on. Or at least I didn't. But I did enjoy it for what it was. Last trailer I want to talk about, we were talking about Jackass earlier. I was mentioning hidden camera stunts. This isn't really a stunty movie, but there's a lot of hidden camera work. And that is the Impractical Jokers. Very, very popular TV show, the Impractical Jokers. Well, now they've got a movie. I'm a pretty big fan of Impractical Jokers. I've been watching it even before it kind of got over here to Ireland, because I listened to a podcast with Quinn on it of Impractical Jokers. Tell him Steve Dave. And yeah, it's really enjoyable. Really kind of show. It's not fantastically made or anything. It's just 4 guys, hidden camera stunts, and they kind of dare each other and force people to do certain things to get either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The person with the most thumbs down loses the episode and they're punished. So how do you make a movie out of that? Well, they're kind of taking the Jackass Bad Grandpa route to a certain degree, in that there seems to be a storyline, and then the hidden cameras or stunts or whatever you want to call them are blended into the story. Now, with Bad Grandpa, the story I thought, was quite nice. It wasn't awful, but I don't. Obviously, the highlight was the stunts and the humor. Now, the story here, sometimes when people go for comedy and they stretch a bit too much, I don't know, is this going to be actually funny? But it's that there's 4 Impractical Jokers, and they get invited to a Paula Abdul party, and there's only 3 tickets, so one of them is going to lose. And the basic premise of the movie seems to be there's 10 challenges. Whoever loses the 10 challenges, or who loses the most of those challenges, won't get to go to Paula Abdul's party. It's kind of random, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on the story, but I guess I don't have to be. What's obviously based on a hidden camera TV show is going to be made or broken on whether the hidden camera stuff is any good. And of course, the other thing is they can't give away too much of that, because then, what's the point of going to see it in the cinemas? It's coming out in February. I've been hearing it's coming out for quite a while. We're getting the trailer 2 months, before it comes out, which isn't a big deal with a movie like this. It looks relatively entertaining, but again, I don't think they can put some of their best stuff in their trailer, so I don't know. I don't need to talk much more about this. You probably know Impractical Jokers. It seems to always be on. If you like Impractical Jokers, you probably like the movie. If you don't like Impractical Jokers, I probably won't change your mind. But yeah, those are all the trailers I want to talk about. There was a hell of a lot of trailers. So we need to get into our topic. So let's just take a quick diversion and we'll get into our topic, which is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
At their first show, they stated, "Fuck's sake, not another wrestling company." Then in Limerick, they asked, "Is it politically correct to shout suck it?" Now, on February 8th, bring your booze to the Circus Factory as Phoenix Wrestling loudly and proudly presents That Langer's so Langers he can't even find his own Langer. Get your tickets as the tournament for Phoenix Champion begins at eventbrite.ie.
You're listening to the Pop Cult Pod, and this is a transition.
So that brings us into our topic this episode, which is a bit Christmassy. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Now, I want to, I'll peel back the curtain a little bit here. I was originally going to do a big long essay on this, talk it out like I've done for a lot of other topics. But what really ended up happening was I arranged for an interview with Chris O'Neill, who is head of cinema at Triskel. And honestly, I said to him, hey, if you have 5 minutes, we can just do a talk. And what ended up happening was we talked for about a half hour. And we basically touched on anything and everything I'd like to talk about with it. And it felt so conclusive that I didn't really feel the need to go into it anymore. I did do some polls for this across Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, that kind of thing. And overwhelmingly, it's a yes by the vote. It's about 10% roughly said no, 90% said yes. Now, what I want to say about that is that I've kind of touched on this in the interview coming up. Certain age demographic votes yes, and basically a lot of the people who have voted for this, I would imagine, are in that age demographic. So it's maybe not conclusive, but I think especially as time is going on, it is kind of becoming accepted as a Christmas movie. But I kind of felt it was interesting to explore ideas of why that is, and that really came across in the interview as well. So it wasn't just like, let's get a yes answer or a no answer. I do want to give a shout out to a few people, people who answered the questions. First of all, the Not About It lads did their Christmas episode. They talked a bit about it briefly. They all agreed it was a Christmas movie. At Irish Slam Dan on Twitter chimed in with some really good points. Only Dan's, or well, he keeps changing his name on Twitter, but a good dude all the same. He said, yes, it's set on Xmas Eve, it has Christmas music, family is a big theme, and Gruber is the Grinch. Not sure about that last point, Dan, but aside from that, pretty much, that's a lot of points that we're going to touch upon on the interview. So yeah, we're going to go into it. As I said, I want to give a big shout out to Gillian Hennessy, who's the PR and marketing manager at Triskel, Chris O'Neill, head of cinema at Triskel, of course, who were very, very generous with their time, very accommodating. And I was hoping to put in an ad for their Christmas lineup. Things got a bit delayed, but in general, I probably promote Triskel every now and then because they have some amazing stuff on. And if you happen to hear this before, their Christmas season wraps up, they have really strong Christmas showings. You should check them out. But I'm going to talk about Triskel, a bit over the next few episodes because they're awesome dudes. They were really, really, really helpful. And I think this is a great interview. So here we go. This is me talking to Chris O'Neill, head of cinema at Triskel, about if Die Hard is a Christmas movie and what really makes a movie a Christmas movie. Enjoy. Tompott from the Pop Cult Pod here, and I have left the confines of the Pop Cult compound and made my way into a Cork institution, the Triskel Arts Centre. And sitting next to me here is Chris O'Neill, head of cinema in the Triskel Arts Centre.
Right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. So, in most cases, I'm asking people, is Die Hard a Christmas film? And I think you've certainly definitively answered that in that it's part of your Christmas lineup.
This is our 4th year showing it. Mm-hmm. And admittedly, when you think of Christmas movies, they tend to be family oriented, positive. Like, for example, the other 2 films we have playing with Die Hard, it's the Muppets Christmas Carol, which is our 8th year showing it. Yeah. And even though everybody remembers it being a feel-good movie, It's a Wonderful Life is also quite dark.
There is dark moments in that movie, yeah.
It's quite dark. I mean, it deals with suicide and a guy contemplating, death, and it's... I
rewatched that for the first time in a while last year, and I was like, oh, this is a lot darker than I remember,
Yeah, like everybody kind of remembers like the last bit when everybody's like saying Merry Christmas is running through.
As soon as you have Jim Henson puppets, people think, oh, it's kids film.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah. So It's a Wonderful Life and the Muppets Christmas Carol will be like what I would say are regular kind of Christmas movies. But we also showed this year Gremlins. Mm-hmm. And, Gremlins is quite dark and has some really strange stuff going on in it.
What I find interesting about Gremlins, sorry to cut you off like that, it seems like there's no debate among most people that Gremlins is a Christmas film, even though it is quite dark. And I don't know, is that because, Gremlins, when it came out in America, it came out as basically a kid's film. There wasn't a PG-13 as we had in America, whereas Die Hard was an R rating. Is that a factor, do you think? Or
this, for example, another thing about the American release of Gremlins, which was bizarre, was it was open in the middle of summer.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
that's an argument people use against Die Hard.
Yeah. It had a summer release. So Gremlins had a summer release. and which, I mean, it's a very Christmas time set movie. It's very snowy.
Yeah.
There's this references to Santa Claus.
Some very dark references.
It's
to
some
Santa,
very I mean, I saw that when I was 7 years old. I remember seeing it on
yeah.
ITV. I remember taping it one night in the 80s. And I mean, it's rated 12A now for the cinema, but you know, up until recently, it was always a 15.
Yeah.
And understandably so, because there are some very dark moments in that film.
It's interesting as well. You're talking about a summer release, and that's a kind of, as I said, it's something they always throw with Die Hard, but a film that a lot of people put as, you know, one of the best Christmas films of all time, Miracle on 34th Street, came out in May.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't really trust that argument as that's what makes something a Christmas film or not. You know, I think it's really only in kind of more recent times where a Christmas release has proven to be, you know, a big return.
Yeah. My theory is this when it comes to Christmas movies. Is the running joke for years, for example, is every Christmas you'll see The Great Escape or a Bond film, you know, or Raiders of the Lost Ark, or you know, those kind of, and you know, you always remember them being the big premieres at Christmas in the 80s and things like that. But they're not Christmas movies; they're just films you always associate with those kind of.
Yeah,
Christmas
that was
periods,
I actually have a question here. Is what I was going to say was that we have films that we kind of consider Christmas films, even though there's nothing Christmassy about them, like Charlie and Chocolate Factory, or The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, because they were always on TV around Christmas time. So there's that element. But what's very important to think about with say Die Hard now. Die Hard came out in 1988. Okay, so that's 31 years ago now.
Yeah,
31. Yeah, 31 years ago, and it was on VHS back in the VHS days. So people who were kids then, and probably too young to should have been able to see it, but they saw it anyway. I mean, it was a staple on RTU when I was growing up.
Yeah,
it used to be on every 6 months, it seemed like. And it was a big kind of event kind of movie. If it was on TV, people recorded it, or they stayed in and watched it, or if you're in school, you're talking about the next day. And I think like it's set at Christmas time.
Yeah.
There are Christmas this imagery relating to Christmas in it. But most importantly, and I think this is what the thing that makes it a Christmas film, is people have a nostalgia for it.
Okay.
And I think it's nostalgia which is very important with Christmas films.
That's what I find very interesting. Like I was looking, I've obviously looked at like a lot of the popular Christmas films over the last while. And when you look at the list, it's a lot of films that are oftentimes from, you know, the 50s or the 60s. And I wonder, is it just simply a case of that the nostalgia that people had who are now fully grown, and that's what they saw repeated on television. And now Die Hard is like kind of the start of a new crop of that.
And exactly, much like the way that, I mean, it used to, when you think about it, It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street, the original
Christmas Carol was Alex was him,
Yeah, absolutely. Scrooge, and there was another White Christmas.
Yeah.
So, you know, they were kind of like your traditional Christmas movies. And I think we're just in another thing now. It's another generation of people remembering these films from, I mean, no, like, even though it's not quite there yet, Bad Santa is a Christmas movie, obviously. But, you know, at a certain point, that will probably become, to some extent, one of these definitive Christmas movies.
I saw it on quite a lot of lists, especially recently, as the best Christmas ever. And I think it's I say a film like Bad Santa, it kind of, I think once you have something that is so definitively Christmas and is, you know, dark and sex and all that kind of thing, I think that kind of gets rid of the whole family argument as well.
Yeah. So I honestly think it just comes down to nostalgia, because it's whatever makes you feel like it's not even just necessarily it's Christmas time, but Christmas time of a certain period.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I was born in 1981, so, you know, I'm just a little bit off being 40. So therefore Die Hard was made in the late 80s.
Yeah.
So therefore it's around that period of when, you know, 8-9 years old when it came out. So even though I might not have seen it directly then, I saw it not too long, a couple of years later, it still captures that period of time.
What I thought was interesting is looking up, I saw some surveys for this, and it was saying that people that are in between 25 and 34 consider it definitively a Christmas film. And people that are younger than that don't consider it a Christmas film. So they're kind of saying that, you know, the people of that age that do consider it a Christmas film were of the age where they probably would have seen it for the first time on television. Whereas now the younger generation have so many options of when they can see a film or how they see a film.
And I mean, also, I suppose what's kind of a significant thing as well is take the star of it, Bruce Willis. For those of us who would have been, might have been too young to have seen Die Hard, but were of an age that we were aware of it when it came out. Bruce Willis was a big actor.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the big Hollywood stars of the kind of, well, after Die Hard from the early 90s. Yeah. And now when you look at him, he's a shadow of his former self.
That's it as well, of course. Yeah.
So like when we think of Die Hard, even Die Hard 2, which is still the thing is, I'm not such a big fan of Die Hard 2, but when I was watching it recently, it still has a nice crisp tone that is like the original. Yeah. Whereas when you get to the third, fourth, I think the fifth one's absolutely.
Oh, the fifth one's dreadful.
And mostly because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He just seems like really like he doesn't want to be there. It feels like he's just saying words that might not even be in the script. It's the best he can remember. It's just, whereas when you look at him in Die Hard, the original, it's like, oh yeah, this guy did have a bit of charisma.
Yeah.
Like this guy was a star. This guy was kind of someone, I could see why he's popular, whereas now he's like this kind of older guy who just doesn't really care about what he does.
It's kind of funny, like, because when he did the first Die Hard, he was more or less an unknown. He was in Moonlighting and that was kind of it. And now it's sort of getting to the point where he's not irrelevant, but he's sort of at the point where, he's washed up and doesn't really care about his craft or what projects he picks. So it's kind of, to a certain degree, gone somewhat full circle. Yeah.
So, is that a partial element? Whereas when we were growing up, it was therefore a kind of a big movie for its time. And like I always think of, there's certain films that are event movies, and this is not the movie I'm about to mention isn't a Christmas movie at all, because it's got nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas, but I still put it in the same bracket as Die Hard. Aliens.
Of course, yeah. Definitely.
Not even Alien, but Aliens, because Aliens is like this. It's like the joke in Father Ted. Come on, let's have a lads' night in. But it's true. If something like Die Hard,
it's a certain mythos.
Alien,
it's an event when it's on. Yeah.
Oh, it's Aliens is on tonight. Got to record that. Or Die Hard. Those two movies were kind of like, let's stay in and kind of watch this.
Definitely, yeah.
And even movies now, no matter how big they are, or whatever the theme is, or whatever, I don't think many films have that lasting power anymore, of this kind of craft of this. It's not even like the craft of how well it's made, but just the way
kind of drawing power.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the way those movies were shot, they were scored. There's just a certain like time, and the technology is different. Not even the whole film versus digital, but even like things like the style of lenses and things like that. And there's just a certain care and attention. A lot of that had to be done in camera, so it was a lot slower. Whereas now everything's I mean, like when people think CGI, they think bad stunts or whatever. But CGI does anything and everything now. It's the color of the sky looks a bit grey. We'll make it bluer. Whereas back then it was like, oh well, we'll have to wait till it's a blue day.
Yeah.
So I just think
there was more thought and craft into it.
There was more thought, more craft, and I think Die Hard has that wonderful kind of. You'll very happily come and see it, hopefully, where we're showing it at Triskel. Definitely. Or if it's on TV or whatever it is, you'll happily, even if you're channel hopping, and it's a bit, you'll always end up watching a chunk of it,
of course,
because it's a great kind of fun film. So I honestly think it's whatever Christmas, whatever it depends on when you were born and what that movie means to you when you saw it or were aware of it first time in your life. And it's a nostalgia element. Yeah.
It's funny, like you talk about it being on TV. I remember a friend of mine, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, was just totally dismayed that it wasn't on television. And I just passed a bus on the way in here, and it was Now TV, and it was, The Grinch came out last year, Mary Poppins came out last year, Die Hard.
Yeah.
It in many ways, it's kind of considered the ultimate Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a case where it's slightly being contrarian or transgressive that people push it up as a Christmas film? Do you think it's, the kind of punk rock answer to my favorite Christmas film?
It could be. And I'm sure there are people who do that, who just kind of like to say, I listen to this because if I listen to this, automatically means it's an anti-establishment.
It's cool,
And there could be that. But to be perfectly honest, like, 2 of my, or even 3 of my favorite Christmas films are films that I guarantee hardly anyone's ever heard of, and I'd probably still get into the same argument. They're not really Christmas movies. Like one in particular, and the other two I have a great fondness for.
What were the other two?
I like Die Hard a lot, but I wouldn't consider it my favorite Christmas movie. You know, my favorite movie is this wonderful 1978 thriller with Elliot Gould and Christopher Plummer called The Silent Partner.
Oh, okay.
And it's about a bank teller played by Elliot Gould who realizes that this guy dressed as Santa Claus, played by Christopher Plummer, is attempting to rob a bank. But I say the attempt is, and he can see he's trying to do it.
Yeah.
It's about to happen any day. So he starts putting the money aside.
Okay.
The robbery happens. The Santa gets away with a couple of hundred, but the bank's lost several thousand because he's pocketed it all.
Oh.
And then it becomes like a game of wits between the two of them, how they're trying to outsmart each other.
Okay.
It's a really good movie. And Curtis Hanson, who later directed LA Confidential, he adapted it he wrote the screenplay.
Oh, okay.
And it's a great movie. And like I think the first half of that, maybe third half of that, it's at Christmas time. You get the and the bank is set in a shop, is in an Eaton Centre shopping mall in Toronto, which when I lived in Toronto, I used to go through it around Christmas time.
Really?
And I remember going like trying to figure out where the bank was, you know.
Well, that's kind of not speaking necessarily of nostalgia, but it's kind of having a personal connection to a film, especially a Christmas film, is a massive part of it as well.
Yeah, of course, you know, and but even like the imagery, there's one bit at the beginning of the film where he's picking up someone to go to a drinks do, and there's a Christmas tree, red light, you know, so the imagery's there. And then like you know, the other two films I was going to mention was, one is called Kings and Desperate Men, which bizarrely got the director of which took the filmmakers and the studio of Die Hard to Cork, because he reckoned they stole his idea.
Oh, I remember hearing this. Yes.
Now, if you actually see Kings and Desperate Men, you'll be perplexed, thinking, how on earth did he think that they could do this? And literally, if you kind of sort of word it to the barest, you know, you could kind of, but it's Patrick McGoohan from The Prisoner, the great 60s TV show, as a kind of a Neil Prendeville style, in Montreal, and he's kind of, you know, the man you love to hate, that kind of thing, and he's taken hostage by this group who want to basically have like a public hearing on the radio about a friend of theirs who's been given a very harsh sentence. Yeah. And they kind of like, they have the judge a hostage, they have this guy hostage, and they want basically like a public forum to discuss whether this guy should have been captured or not. Oh. And it's very strange and there's editing style and the use of sound, there's nothing else like it. Then the third one is Trancers, which is a 1985. It's only 76 minutes long. Yeah. It's a pure B movie, and it basically takes the plots of Blade Runner and The Terminator, sticks them together, and it's only set, and it's just, like I said, 76 minutes. It just breezes through. It's so much fun, for loads of wit. It's very clever. Yeah. What it lacks in budget, it makes up for in ingenuity, and it's a wonderful film. But there's one, the fact that it's set at Christmas, there's just one key action sequence in it where I'm trying to think how just to quickly sum this up without going into the plot, but let's just say it's got to do with time travel, zombies, all this kind of thing. And then suddenly the guy who is dressed, who's the Santa at one of the, you know, like it goes to the kids' visit to
Santa in the mall.
Santa, exactly. It was in a mall, and he suddenly turns into a raging kind of zombie creature. And a big fight shoots out, and then it has, and you know the hero shoots him, and then it cuts to a kid going to his mom. They just shot Santa, and
I get the feeling I'm going to come back here in a year's time and say, let's talk about Trancers or Trancers.
It's called Trancers, and there's 4 sequels. Wow. But to different degrees they kind of work or not. But the first one is just so much fun. But those 3 films, and you could include Die Hard, but there's many other 3 films, have elements that are Christmas, but they're not Christmas movies. They're not about like a Santa Claus character who's doing good deeds, or, you know, the song and dance numbers, or kind of, but because there's the imagery in those films of Christmas, they make me feel a certain kind of
pine for Christmas and have that. And I kind of find it strange. Like, a lot of people say, is it enough for a film to just be set at Christmas to be a Christmas film?
And it's funny, kind of odd. I kind of don't really get the whole why people really want to debate it. I mean, it's like, I think it's just almost like a something just to argue with down the pub.
That's it. Yeah.
Because I think it's just whatever it means to you. Because there will be those contrarians who just say Die Hard because it's cool. I'm going to be different. I'm going to be, you know. But, you know, personally, I think because of the era it was made and the Christmas imagery in it, it does kind of have a certain weirdly wholesome quality to it.
When you get down to, if you went down to the very, you know, the bare bones of it, it's kind of about family and being together for Christmas. And it's funny, like I was talking about, you know, I've seen people do very deep dives in this, people saying like, you know, John McClane, the initials are very close to Jesus Christ. There's 13 terrorists. Hans Gruber doesn't consider himself a terrorist, so there's 12 terrorists, like 12 hostile, you know, mad stuff. People going whatever the way, and it does kind of come down to personal preference. Yeah, to such a degree, like. Yeah,
and like I said, I think it generally it's what it means to you, and if it somehow makes you think and feel of Christmas, feel like, you know, in the imagery and the atmosphere, then it's a Christmas movie. That's my thought, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have a few other films here that I want to say are they Christmas and not Christmas, because, you know, Die Hard has become to a certain degree a kind of the alt Christmas choice, and these are ones that they're not obscure, but people don't necessarily put them in the conversation. Like Batman Returns, Christmas film, Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, Christmas, absolutely.
Basically, anything Shane Black does is Christmas.
Kiss Bang Bang is Christmas. Yeah.
Iron Man 3 is Christmas as well.
Is Last Boy Scout set?
I think it
near or just after or something.
Is it Thanksgiving into Christmas or something like that? I think.
Yeah. Because Thanksgiving.
I remember like speaking about release dates and things. I saw Iron Man 3 in cinema, and it said it during Christmas. Came out. You know, big summer movie, obviously. And as soon as the movie ended, no one said anything except my friend leaned over and said, "Was this meant to come out in December?" Like, it's Shane Black, you know. In Bruges also takes place, you know, during Christmas. One of the ones I thought was very interesting, and I'm not sure why this isn't talked about as much in Christmas circles, is Trading Places.
Absolutely.
And what's more surprising is that, and this is
that memorable image of Dan Aykroyd dressed in the shaggy old with the gun to his head.
You know, fa la 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 la. Like, what I found interesting with that, and I don't know, maybe it's a kind of the cultural thing with Die Hard as well for us, but in Italy, that's considered the Christmas movie. They show it Christmas Eve on Italian TV every year. Trading Places, which is kind of surprising. Yeah, to a certain degree.
Yeah, again, that used to be one. I kind of remember it being on TV around Christmas time when I was younger. And I remember seeing it once on TV in America. And of course, on TV, they remove everything because there's you're watching it 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the morning because of the different time zones, everything's censored. And let's just say it lost some of its edge.
Yeah, definitely not the same. I kind of wonder as well now, like with Christmas movies, it feels like to a certain degree we're almost kind of spoon-fed that idea of Christmas in movies, especially now. So I wonder, is like a film like Die Hard being considered a Christmas film just like almost a, you know, not a Christmas miracle, but a miracle in that we can do it as a Christmas film, because it seems like more and more a lot of these films that do come out of Christmas are aiming to be the next Christmas film.
Well, like, I think actually maybe this is kind of an important kind of thing to think about, is there is, at least in the last couple of years, and I'd imagine it is this year, there's always one channel on satellite TV that it used to be, I don't know if it's still even on there, Movies 24 or something.
Oh, I think
it just becomes like Christmas 24, where they show non-stop Christmas movies. And when I say Christmas movies, we're not talking about they're going to be showing Die Hard or going to be showing White Christmas or it's on. No, we're talking about the Hallmark TV movies. That there seems to be, I can't work out how many. There's so many
crazy
of them,
amount of them,
and the plots are they're always, you know.
I got to get home for Christmas for the family.
There's so many of these things, and it's like if you're the kind of person who watches those kind of films and actually enjoys kind of the kind of very saccharine kind of feel of it, then you say Die Hard. They're going to go, oh God, goodness no.
There is that real thing. People have a real kind of sort of sentimentality, and it's kind of it's pure innocence, really. But I think, like, especially looking at the older films from 50s, 60s, it's kind of like, it seems like it's speaking to a time that's kind of gone now. So I think people have, again, going back to nostalgia, I think that is a massive factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I thought was, and this is just a random point, we were talking about Bad Santa, a Christmas film that, like, again, we're coming back to this cultural thing. I don't think it has ever caught on here, but it's always in the conversation with great Christmas films, especially in America, is A Christmas Story.
Bob Clark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I misremembering this? Was this ever a big thing over here? It didn't seem like it.
No, it never has been, and it's one that's always kind of brought up. So, of course, Bob Clark, that's his second big Christmas movie. His first one is Black Christmas, the original 1974 film. So he seemed to be, or is it 75? Sorry, yeah, 1974. It came out 75 in some places. Which, again, is incredibly dark, but it's got Christmas in the title.
Yeah.
It's set at Christmas time. It kind of hinges on the plot of it having to be Christmas because people are leaving for the period, and one character who's dead and they don't realize it because they think they've gone home for Christmas. And, it's another extremely dark film. But sorry, when you were saying there about A Christmas Story, it never really caught on over here. I saw it on TV in the 90s. Around Christmas time, if not Christmas Day itself, maybe around that period. And it's a sweet film. If I remember correctly, Darren McGavin is the father, who is Kolchak, the original Kolchak from the TV show Kolchak the Night Stalker. And it's a nice little film. But that's become like a Christmas thing. Like in Italy, we're trading places. In America, that one has, but it's never really transferred over here.
Are Christmas films that, regionally specific? Because, like, in the case of Christmas Story, I mean, that actually, when that first came out, it flopped.
Yeah, 1983, wasn't it?
1983, yeah. And they said that it came out into cinemas, I think, the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And it had already left most cinemas because it flopped so badly by Christmas. And it was only, through constant repetition and, TV, massive factor in that. Like,
It's a Wonderful Life was a flop. And it was only because if I remember correctly, I might be getting it slightly wrong, I think what happened was, later, the rights fell into public domain.
Yeah.
And because of that, a lot of TV stations, especially in America, would just keep airing it because they could. It was free. Yeah. And people grew up watching it. And then it became like one of the definitive Christmas movies. Yet when it came out originally, it was a flop. So
I wonder if it is just a question of repetition. And of course, if something is constantly on TV and you're growing up in a household, you're going to hold a place for that in your heart.
Of course, yeah.
So for a lot of people, I guess that's Die Hard.
No, absolutely. And as I said, I think it doesn't necessarily matter about the subject matter, as in whether it's something like family, suitable for a family to view or whatever. I mean, when I was growing up, in the 80s, family viewing in my house often was something that wasn't actually aimed at kids or family. I remember once bringing home a film that was like a PG-rated family film, and my father getting quite kind of,
oh, you got some bad,
no, he just wanted to watch, something with like Charles Bronson or something, which we used to, but and I think it does depend on, and I think like, it does come down to personal preference and also maybe this is another thing. It also depends if you have kids or not, because like, I have a little boy, he's 2.5 years old now. So he's still kind of young really to be getting Christmas, but like probably next year when he's 3 years old, it'll be like this big kind of Santa Claus and bigging up
getting
and
all
things.
the imagery.
Getting the Christmas decorations out and things. And you're kind of almost like trying to get him excited about it. And you're trying to, as adults, it's all just like,
it kind of becomes a bit overbearing.
It's, you have to travel, you might have to travel, you might have to be with family members you don't necessarily like, it just becomes this negative thing potentially, or it's very stressful and it's like, but when there's kids involved, so I don't know, maybe that's another thing. So if you're that kind of way inclined, is something a bit more kind of,
that's what I was thinking, like you were talking there, like as we grow older, like when you're younger, you have this idealized version of Christmas, so maybe the older stuff will appeal to you because it is such a sweet, natural Christmas, and as you get old, you get a bit more jaded, and you gravitate towards Die Hards and Silent Night, Deadly Night, and
it's like, and another one I just thought of, and I might be getting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's maybe set on Christmas Eve, maybe The Ice Harvest.
I can't say I know that one.
John Howard Ramis directed it, but it's not a comedy; it's a thriller with Billy Bob Thornton and John Cusack from about 2005, maybe. I seem to remember
that recently.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize Harold Ramis was making that many movies that kind of late. You know,
A shady lawyer attempts a Christmas Eve crime, hoping to swindle a local mob boss out of some money, but his partner, a strip club owner, might have different plans for the cash.
yeah.
Yeah, Harold Ramis directed it. Connie Nielsen, John Cusack, Billy Bob Thornton, Oliver Platt, Randy Quaid.
Jesus,
It's
totally slipped under my radar.
2005. Yeah, and I think what kind of makes it somewhat Christmassy is it's set in a town where it's I can't think of which part of America, but it's like basically the whole movie's just shrouded in snow.
Yeah.
So if they're not indoors, it's just white or
blankets,
dark So because a lot of it's set at night, I think, or at least somewhat nocturnal. So that's another one, for example, which could in years to come become a kind of
Be picked up and
In fact, if I remember correctly, but Bill Murray was supposed to be in it at one point, and
that would have been their big reunion for it. They had a massive following.
So that was going to be the big kind of thing. I think it fell through in the end, but and had he done it, it probably would be like the way Scrooged is remembered or something, even though Scrooged is obviously more associated with Christmas because it's Christmas Carol updating, whatever. But yeah, sorry, just when I thought of that there, I just...
No, not at all. I mean, if nothing else, if we haven't settled the debate in Die Hard, which I think we pretty much have, they're going away with some amazing recommendations.
No, it's not a bad movie. It's a good, solid, it's only like a 90-something odd minute. I like a good nifty crime thriller that's, and it's a bit quirky as well.
Sounds very kind of Coney.
Yeah, it is. Do you know what? I would almost associate it a bit more with something like their first one, Blood Simple. Yeah. Which is like it has that same kind of vibe going, but it holds back on the quirkiness.
Okay, right.
But it's still. But I think Billy Bob Thornton's a great presence, and as is John Cusack.
Well, I mean, I guess what we've settled on is Christmas films are really about what they mean to you, whether that's from a nostalgic point of view. It's about what makes you feel good, and if the holidays and Christmas are about making you feel positive and feeling warmth, regardless of what the Christmas film is, as long as it makes you feel that way, it doesn't really matter. So for Die Hard, which so many people grew up loving, and to a certain degree, it is dark. It is very untraditionally a Christmas film, but considering how much of a special place it has in so many of our hearts, I think it has to be considered a Christmas film. Yeah, that's that. You know, I think a Christmas film, it can be loosely defined as it's set at Christmas, and it somehow connects with you, and that's enough. Yeah. And you know what? If connecting is even, it makes me, because I'm not a fan. Like if someone wasn't a fan of Christmas, and there's something about it that's anti-nice, anti-pleasant, but that somehow connects with you, then that's fine as well. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I think we've settled that. Chris, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too.
As me talking to Chris O'Neill there, head of cinema at the Triskel in Cork. As I said, I've never actually done an interview for a podcast before, but I couldn't have asked for a better guest. He was very, very gracious of his time, certainly, even after the microphones went off. We were talking about comedy in the 80s for about 20 minutes. Great dude. Would love to have him back on the podcast at some stage, and I'll definitely be talking about the Triskel at a few points in the future, because they were gracious hosts and really a fantastic cinema right here in Cork City. That leaves us to do one thing before I send us off to bed, before St. Nicholas, I don't know, what does he do? Dangle berries in our head? I might have mixed a few songs there, but I have to justify my place on the Phoenix Wrestling Network. They might not want me after I don't know, cancel Santa or whatever I said there.
It's that time of the week where Tompott justifies his place on the Phoenix Wrestling Network.
That's right, I need to prove that I belong, and to do that I go to randomcelebritygenerator.com, exactly what it sounds like. Press the button 3 times, get a random celebrity, and connect them to the world of wrestling. The only rule is I have to know who the celebrity is. Like one time when I was messing around with this, I got like some financier from the 19th century. Sorry, that's no good. I got Martin Landau, who, it says here, was Bela Lugosi in Ed Wood. and he was in Ed Wood with George the Animal Steel. That's good. That's a bit of an obscure one. Sometimes, I just connect it to Randy Savage and Spider-Man. But not this week. This week I just want to play something a bit more obscure. Well, that is the end of our show, our big Christmas show. Jingle bells and all that. Merry Christmas if you're hearing this before Christmas. I hope you had a nice Christmas if you're hearing this after it. If you're listening to this in the past, where did we all go wrong, huh? Wait, you're not listening in the past, you're listening in the future. I mean, if you are listening in the past, how'd you get in the past? Let me know. If you're listening in the future, does it hold up? Probably not. Probably doesn't hold up to the present either. But I will say this, I've got loads of things coming up on YouTube if you want to check out kind of some few end of the year lists, a few reviews of films I didn't get to this year. Pop Cult Pod on YouTube, you can shout at me or for my mistakes or my hot takes at pop_cult_pod on Twitter, Pop Cult Pod on Instagram, Pop Cult Compound on Facebook. I'm all over the map really. You can find me wherever. I'm hoping to do an episode before the end of the year, which would be about a week. Just kind of going through the wins and losses of the year. The first episode I ever did was a kind of an award show before I'd seen any of the movies, kind of a preview of the year 2019. So I'll be going back to the past and kind of reviewing myself, I guess, talking about which movies I was right about, which ones I was wrong about, who had a good year, who had a bad year, that kind of thing. If you want to check out past episodes, I always forget to mention this before I was on the Phoenix Wrestling Network, you can check me out at soundcloud.com/popcultpod. Aside from that, have a Merry Christmas, because they cannot spell cult without you. Shout out to Gunkel for the music. Check him out on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/GUNKEL.
The Pop Cult Pod with Tompott on the Phoenix Wrestling Network.